Hello and welcome back. I'm Chann and you're watching Made by Chann. We are now officially celebrating 1 year of my sewing journey. Now you all didn't see all of that because it took me some time to gain some confidence to start posting it on the internet, but I started sewing last January and I decided this January to make this video because I said, oh, there may be others out there who decide it's a new year, I'm gonna learn a new skill, I'm gonna learn to sew. Where do I start? So this is, I would call myself still beginner, but advanced beginner. An advanced beginner's list of things that are good supplies. That's the word I'm looking for. I would call this video sewing supplies you need for a beginner, but also sewing supplies that are just nice to have for a beginner and make your life easier. So if you wanna see all of my recommendations, please keep on watching. If you see me look over here, that's because that's where my list of things are. So I've broken it down into 3 categories. Things I had when I first got started. As you all know, I had just a regular DIY channel, so there's some supplies I already had that I think is really helpful to help you start out. Things that are extra and you don't necessarily need, but you should get eventually. Like, they are helpful to improve your skills. And then the middle, like, real crucial one is things I wish I just would have bought sooner. So we're gonna start with things that I had when I first started and I think you should buy if you're just starting out. The first one is a measuring tape. At first I didn't put this on the list because I already had one. I just kind of assumed people knew that. But if you just start and you don't know anything, yes, you need a measuring tape. You probably need multiple. I only have one, but it is very helpful to have one that is in inches and centimeters, because if you sew patterns that are, especially indie patterns that are from a different country, it's usually going to be in centimeters or meters. And so having one so you can convert it, very helpful. They'll convert it for you sometimes, but not all the time. So this is the very first thing you need to own. Next thing on the list, this is my pride and joy, a rotary cutter. Now I just have a simple one, I don't have a fancy one, but let me tell you, this has saved my hands and my wrists. It's also so much faster for me to just use a rotary cutter. If you're gonna have a rotary cutter, you also need a cutting mat. Now I have this small one that I use sometimes, but I have a big one that lays across my full table, which if you see any of my tutorials and you see a green thing on my table in the background, it's my cutting mat or self-healing mat. In the same vein, you need fabric scissors. You actually kind of need both. You need fabric scissors and regular scissors. And my fabric scissors, I upgraded to these. I used to have a different pair, and the quality kind of does matter. Just buy what you can afford, but if you're getting them from like Joann's or Michael's, you can use a coupon, obviously. Because I predominantly cut out my projects with my rotary cutter, but there's some stuff you do need the scissors for. I do highly recommend investing in a good pair. When I say invest, if you're just starting out and you don't know if you want to do this, $20 on a pair of fabric scissors is just fine. The only rule is do not use your fabric scissors on paper, and do not allow anyone else to use your fabric scissors on paper. These are just for fabric. They are very sharp. This is probably the most important thing next to the scissors on this list. You need a seam ripper. A seam ripper this is something I already owned, and a seam ripper helps you rip out your stitches when you mess up in a neat way. Now make sure you're using your seam ripper correctly, but it is like, I don't know how you would rip out your stitches without a seam ripper, if I'm being quite honest with you. I know some people, that's advanced though, but some people use razors to do it, but again, that's advanced, but I don't know how you would do it without it. So buy a seam ripper. Something I bought when I decided to learn to sew, because I was using a pencil and a pen. Don't be like me, don't do that. Just buy a fabric marker. So I have the double-ended one that is disappearing inks that disappears with air or water, or then I just have the blue side which disappears with just water. You can use, they make a ton of different versions of these. These are my favorite though, because I like how dark the purple is. This is a great way for you to mark darts, markings, just transfer everything onto your fabric from your pattern. You could also use a tailors chalk. I don't own that, but some people really like that. I just prefer the marker. And you know, maybe one day I'll upgrade my life, but this is working for me now, so I'm not going to. This is something I learned about when I was watching other people's videos, and I was like, what is that? Why do they have that stuff on, on their patterns? Y'all, if you knew, everyone has to learn some way. I used to take my patterns. First, I used to cut my patterns. I traced them. We'll talk about that in a second. But I used to take my patterns, cut them out, pin them to the fabric, and then trace the pattern. It used to take me forever, and I was like, I don't know if I could do this sewing thing. And then I learned about fabric weights or pattern weights. Ugh, game changer. Game changer. Okay, you can use whatever heavy object you want. When I first started, and I still use a lot to this day, I use coasters. These are marble coasters that, if you've been following me for a while, you've seen me make these. I use coasters. I have a 4-pack, and these work really well, so I do still use these. I also have these 2-inch washers that I just kind of stack up. I would say you could take like 4 or 5 of these and wrap them together with ribbon or fabric and just make like an individual weight and take them around. These aren't that expensive. I think they were maybe like $1 for a 2-pack or whatever. I got them from the like Home Depot, I think. Highly recommend. And then I just have like more coasters that I got from the dollar section at Target. The next thing you should definitely own as a beginner sewist is sewing pins. I keep my sewing pins in a lot of places, but I keep some of them in this magnetic bowl. We'll talk about this in a little bit. And it's very helpful. I have 2 types of pins. I have standard pins and I have satin pins. I just got satin pins probably within the last 6 months or so. Yeah, so I've been sewing for a little bit, but they do make a difference and whatnot, like how big or small your holes are. If I could go back in time, because people bought me these pins, if I could go back in time, I would have got flathead pins and not these ones with balls, because when you're tracing things and putting your ruler on top of your patterns and your fabric and you have things pinned together, this spherical pin is hard to put a ruler on top of. So I do think I'm going to upgrade my life this year and just get some flathead pins. Get a ruler. So I have this quilter's ruler. I'm trying to think, did I have this ahead of time or did I buy this along the way? I think I had this early on and this helped a lot. And I also have a small one. Now I do think you need both. We'll discuss. This one I use for if I'm tracing patterns and it's supposed to be a straight line, or if I'm cutting things out and I'm just doing a straight edge with my rotary cutter. This is what you want. This helps make it so much easier, and it's just guaranteed straight line. And it's clear so you can see through it. It has inches. And then this I have, because I don't own a seam gauge. I haven't decided if I'm gonna upgrade my life to a seam gauge yet, but it is a clear 6-inch ruler. And I mostly use it to, like I said, gauge seams and button allowances. And then if I'm, you know, if you're like in the pattern, it'll say just fold over the collar 5/8 of an inch and press. This is what I use this ruler for. And I can mark it on the fabric and mark it on the pattern. This is very helpful. Okay, that's everything I would say you have to start out. You can debate with me below if you want or not, but I think those things are very helpful. Now, moving on, this is things that I waited buying and I wish I just would have bought sooner. Things that I was like, that's stupid, you don't need that. Yes, you do. You do need that. The first thing that I wish I would have bought sooner are sewing clips. I have about 50 of them and I've only broken one. And I've had them, I've had these a long time. I got these like in the spring, I think. Yeah, because I started sewing in the winter. So these are really great for fabric that you don't want to punch holes into because it doesn't heal as quickly, i.e. leather, silk sometimes, crepe. Even though if you're a beginner sewist, you know, learn from me and don't start off with, with crepe, but they're helpful for that. And some people actually like clips better than they like pins, because there's some areas, like if you're doing like a really tight armhole or a cuff, where the pins just aren't, they're not gonna do it. You need clips. So The clips, I do recommend. You can get those on Amazon or various different sellers, and I think that's a really good investment to make. You don't need it to start, but once you get your ball rolling and you're like, I think I want to stick with sewing, that's definitely a good thing to invest in. Next, I have this. This is my seam allowance guide. This has been, this is great. Now, I would say, controversial opinion, but you're going to rely on it too much and you won't learn how to actually read the markings on your sewing machine. So what it does is it has a straight edge and a magnet on the back, and you can just pop it onto your sewing plate. I think that's what it's called. And line it up to the seam allowance guide, and then you just line up the edge of your fabric with it, and so you don't have to pay attention as much to making sure, but it does kind of guarantee that all your seam allowances are correct. Now, I say this is something that you shouldn't start off with because you should learn how to sew in a straight line. And this could become a crutch because then if you don't have it, you'd be like, oh my God, where's my seam allowance? But I didn't buy this at first. I think I just thought my store didn't sell these, if I'm being honest. But now that I own it, I love it. But I can sew pretty well without it. So, you know, you do you, but I do love this thing. I think it's great. I had to look for it and I was like, oh, it's on my sewing machine. So this is a good one to have. Is a wrist pin cushion. Now, they typically come in 2 packs. So I have one on my wrist that I normally wear, and I have one that sits on my sewing machine. It's like right above. And it's really great because when you're sewing along, you're pulling pins out of your fabric and whatnot, just pop the pins in here and whatnot. This just makes life so much easier. Like I said, this is why this category is called things I just wish I would have bought sooner and whatnot. Like, this is great. And you see I have a little arm party going and whatnot. But I think I probably have it on most of the videos you see me in. And it's a game changer. It really is. This small thing makes a difference. Carbon paper. I learned about carbon tracing paper. Basically what it is different colored paper that you can put in between your pattern and your fabric, and you can mark out your darts, mark out your markings, and it transfers and there's none of that like struggling to like lift the paper and pin where the dart ends and all that. Just do this and make it work. Now, to do this, you could just use a pen or a pencil with a sharp point, or you could use a tracing wheel. We're gonna talk about my tracing wheel in a second, but this does make transferring markings so much easier. And so this is something that I didn't know about, but as soon as I found out about it and I started using it, I was like, I get it, I get the hype. I'm happy I bought this. This probably should have been the first thing on the list. Snips, little scissors, you can call them whatever you want. I didn't think these were worth it. I said, I have big scissors. Why do I need these tiny little scissors? You need tiny little scissors because when you are sewing, you need to trim your threads as you go. And these really do get in there better than my big scissors do. Like, it's no comparison. If you're like me and just like, I don't see the point of that, get over yourself and buy the Snips. This next category, we're going to call extra things that you don't need, that aren't necessary in the beginning, but once you get them, they're gonna step your game up. Like, you're gonna be happy you have them. The first thing, fancy pattern weights. Okay, I picked these up off of Style Maker Fabrics, but this one goes with the curve. They have a corner one, 2 pieces. I almost bought 2 kits versus 1, but you get all of these in 1 kit, and they're very nice. When you're ready, upgrade to the fancy pattern weights. People don't talk about these enough, and I really think they should. A sewing presser foot kit. Now, I picked mine up. I had always wanted one, but I didn't think I was ready to get one, but then I started doing the math. So depending on what feet your sewing machine comes with, you may not have all of them that you need for your beginner projects. Case in point, a zipper foot. It'll come with a zipper foot, but it may not come with an invisible zipper foot, and you're gonna learn real quick you want an invisible zipper foot. Feet are typically like 10 is cheap, but I think I paid like $10 for my invisible zipper foot. $10 to $20 a piece. And I think what made me buy this eventually is I was going to buy like, I don't know which one, a flat hem foot or something like that. I was gonna buy something, and then I was like, if I keep having to buy sewing feet, it just makes more sense for me to buy a kit with all of them in there that has everything I could possibly want. This was a great investment. I love this. I don't like my tracing wheel. This is my fault though. So there's two kinds. There's like the dull kind and the pointy kind with like actually makes marks. I got the dull kind because I have no idea. And I should have bought the other kind. That I will probably change soon, just based upon a video I know I want to make this month. So I'll probably go and buy that one. But this one, I do like it and is very helpful for when you're using your tracing paper. So that's why I keep this one. So if you're gonna get this, it's easier to trace with a tracing wheel, but don't buy the kind I buy. Don't make that mistake. Just get the other kind. This is my magnetic bowl. Some people have magnetic pin cushions. You can get those. I decided to go this route because it was cheaper. Then I just Googled magnetic bowl and it came up. The magnetic bowl is something that you don't need until you need it. Let me explain. When you spill your pins on the ground, which you will do, on the ground, on the table, you're gonna spill your pins at some point. This is the fastest way to clean them up. They also have like magnetic stick ones to like keep your pins on too. Either way, this is the fastest way to clean up to guarantee that you picked up all the pins. Highly recommend just for that reason. That's it. That's why you need a magnetic pin cushion. That's the whole tweet. This next thing is something that I resisted getting. I'm happy I have one. It just makes my life easier. It's a loop turner. Like, I stick it in. It's really great for skinny straps or anything I'm trying to feed through, and it just bop bop, you know, and you attach it. Just get a loop turner. Just that's what I said. It's something you don't need right away, but once you do, your life is so much easier. Like, I'm a fan. That's it. That's all I have to say. Just buy the loop turner. These last two things, we're gonna talk about them together because I got them fairly close at the same time. A clapper and a tailor's hand. Now these are, you're really stepping your game up with these once you get them. I will say the clapper, I was using a wooden spoon, but basically what it is, it's a block of wood and it helps you want the crispest seams you've ever seen. You iron your fabric or iron your seams and then pop your clapper on top of it and it flat, crisp. Wonderful on crepes, wonderful on silk, wonderful on wool. Like, there's really nothing that's going to beat this, is what I've learned. Like, wood, period. So what I've learned. And I was talking to one of my friends and one of my sewing friends on Instagram, and she was like, do you think it's worth it? And I was like, well, I was using a spoon before, so yes. So if you have some type of wood, what it does is it absorbs the steam and it makes it dry faster and it like presses it down faster. And last but certainly not least is my tailor's ham. I use it to press my darts. Basically, you put your fabric on top of it and anything that's curved, I can mold it to things. But if you're trying to press a curved seam and you put your tailor's ham on it, it just so much easier. So much easier. So that's everything that I would say are my favorite sewing supplies, things you need as a beginner, things you can hold off getting, and things that I was a fool and I should have bought sooner. If you, I really was a fool. I should have just bought them sooner. Comment down below your favorite sewing supplies. You know, do you agree with my list? Or is there anything you'd like to add? Don't forget to subscribe if you really like this video, and good luck on your sewing journey. Follow me on Instagram. You can tag me when you're making new things and you can get through it. I know it's gonna seem stressful and you're gonna freak out a little bit, but you can get through it. Like, I made it a year, I'm still doing it. So don't lose your steam. And so I'll see you guys next time. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for watching.